Hi, welcome back to Crafternoons. I'm Miss Kimberley with the Ponte Vedra Beach Branch Lobby at the St. Johns County Public Library System, and we're back to do another Crafternoon. So it's January, and hopefully it's pretty cold where you are, or if you're in Florida, we can just pretend, because this month's crafts were all animals that like it cold. Today we're going to do our penguin. Isn't he cute? Okay. Some of you may have picked up our Crafternoon crafts at your local library branch. If you did, it looks something like this. And it includes all those supplies that you would need to make the craft, except for scissors, glue, and a pencil. If you did not have an opportunity to get a craft, these are things that you could make at home. It uses paper, pretty much, just different colors of paper. So we have black construction paper, we have orange construction paper, white construction paper, a multicolored one for his scarf. This could be any color. I just had the polka dots. And I did provide patterns for tracing and cutting these out, but you could do this on your own. It's such a general shape, but I just tried to make it as easy as I could for people that got the craft. And then we have two googly eyes. But if you don't have googly eyes at home and you're making this craft on your own, you can easily cut it out of paper. The leftover paper that you used to make the penguin, you could draw eyes or you could cut them out of paper. So if you don't have these, not a problem. All right, you ready to get started? Okay, this craft is not that difficult, but there's a lot of cutting in it. So tracing and cutting. So if you're a young child, you might need a little help with that. Cutting is really good practice for hand-eye coordination. If you're an older child, you can do this, no problem, all by yourself. Easy peasy. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make his body. So I gave you, if you have a kit, this piece of paper that has the outline of his body. And the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna cut this out. If you don't have it from the library and you're cutting this out yourself, you can see it's kind of the shape of a penguin. It's a big oval that's a little bit bigger at the top, and then he's just got a flat bottom. And I will cut this out and show you. So this is the shape that you're going to use for your penguin. So if you have our kit, go ahead and cut that out. Once you cut it out, you're going to then take your black construction paper and you're going to place this on your paper kind of off to the side because we want to make sure we have extra paper to make his flippers. And then that's when you're going to take the pencil that you brought, or if you have a marker or crayon, it's okay too. And you're just going to hold the cutout in place and trace around. And then that way we now have that shape onto the black construction paper. So now you're gonna cut again. So I told you, you're gonna have a tired hand by the end of this. So we're gonna go ahead and cut out that shape that you just traced in the black paper. And if you're at home and you didn't have our kit and you only had white paper, you could do this exact same thing and use a crayon or a marker or colored pencils, and then you could color it black. So if you didn't have black paper, we just figured out a way to solve that problem. So here's the first step. Here's our body of our penguin. Good job. Next, since we're using the black paper, we need to do his flippers. Here's his flippers on the side. He has a right flipper and a left flipper, just like you have a right and a left hand, so that he could waddle back and forth. So now we're going to cut out the pattern for the left and the right flipper. So if you have it, go ahead and do that now. And if you don't, let's look at the shape that we have. I'll cut it out and I'll show you what kind of a shape we made. I did draw these myself, so they're not impossible to do. I drew it out and then I went ahead and copied it for everyone else. So let's see. This is what we did. It's kind of got a slope here for the outside. And this side was straight because it's going to be glued behind him, so you don't really need to do it. So it's kind of like a point here. So that is one side, and then he has a left and a right. So then out of the black construction paper that you have, you're going to go ahead and trace, again, the ones that you just cut out. So you're going to be cutting the shape twice. Once out of a pattern, and once onto your construction paper. There's some of you out there that probably think, I don't need a pattern, I can just draw that. And if you can, super duper. Go ahead and draw it and cut it out of black. Okay, so now we're gonna cut out his two flippers, a left flipper and a right flipper. Here we go. There's one. And here is number 2. I gave you plenty of black construction paper if you got a kit, so that if you make a mistake, it's not a problem. Just go ahead and trace it again or cut it again. You have extra. But remember to just take your time, trace it and cut it. And you can take a break from this. So if your hand gets tired and you want to stop for a little while, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so we now have his body and we have his 2 flippers. Now he needs his tummy. He has a big, round, white tummy. And if you remember the pattern that I gave you, I went ahead and traced the next part for his tummy. And I was saving paper and put it on the same paper. So now what we're gonna do is cut out the part that says penguin tummy. It's the same shape as his body, but on a smaller size. So if you're making your own pattern, you're just gonna kind of copy the shape that you did, but just make it smaller because it has to fit onto the penguin that we did. So there's my pattern. I'm gonna place it onto the white construction paper. If you're not using the paper I gave you, it could be any type of white paper. It could be printer paper or anything like that. It doesn't have to be construction paper. Okay, so I traced out my penguin tummy. Now I'm gonna cut him out. This is super practice with your cutting skills. And if you trace it and cut it out and you don't get rid of all of your lines, guess what? That's okay. All you have to do is flip over it to the side that you didn't write on, and then there's nothing showing, so that's fine. So now we've got his tummy. This is flying along. Okay, what does he need now? Ooh, how about we do his beak? Look at his beak. And what shape is that beak? It's a triangle. I gave you a triangle that I drew on the pattern that you can cut out. You don't have to use my pattern. You can probably draw the shape of a triangle yourself. Or if you have something at home that's the shape of a triangle and you just want to trace that item, you could do that too. So we just have his triangle beak, and if you notice, he's orange. So now we're going to get our orange paper out. This is also what he uses for his feet, so don't put the triangle nose right in the middle. Let's put it up in a corner. So now we're going to take his beak, and I'm going to trace it onto the orange paper. And then guess what? You're right. We're going to cut it out. Here we go. Okay, now we have his nose. Okay, so we have his body, his tummy, his right and left flipper, and his nose. Now we're going to do his feet. His feet, if you notice, are actually going to be your handprints. So this is a very personal gift that you can give to somebody because it has your handprints on it. My hands were actually too big, and if I did my hands, his feet would go all the way up, probably too close to his eyeballs, so they were too big. But if you're a child, your handprint is perfect. And what you're gonna do is you're just going to put your hand onto your paper, the orange paper, and you will trace around your hand, and then yes, we'll cut it out. Since my hand is too big, I just cut out a little handprint that would be a better size, and I'm gonna go ahead and trace that instead of my hand. So go ahead and put your hand on the paper, or you can trace your sister's or your brother's or anybody's hands. I think a grown-up's hands are just gonna be a little bit too big, and then the penguin's feet would be huge. So remember, your penguin has a left foot and a right foot, just like you. So when you trace your hands, go ahead and trace your left hand and your right hand. Don't just trace one hand, because I think he's gonna look a little, he would look a little backwards if he has 2 left feet or 2 right feet. So trace both of your hands like I'm doing on the orange paper. Perfect. And then you guessed it, we're going to cut some more. So go ahead and cut out your hands. So what we're doing is we're gonna cut out all the pieces to our penguin and then we'll put it together. It's a little bit easier to do it that way, I think, to have everything handy and ready to go than to just glue it on one piece at a time. I find that gets a little bit confusing. So we're getting close to having all of our parts ready to make our penguin. And remember, if you're tired of cutting and your hand's sore, just take a break and you can come back and you can cut out some parts later. Or if you have a friend, a sibling, or a caregiver there and they want to help you with some of the cutting out, that would be fine too. Okay, so I have one foot, one hand, and now I have to cut out the other one. And you know what? I probably cut out a little faster than you do, but don't worry, just take your time and practice going around the lines that you drew. This is very good practice for everybody. There's no hurry. And if you make a mistake, don't worry about it. We will go ahead and we would cut out another one. And again, if you didn't have orange paper and you were just gonna cut this out of white, you could cut it out of white, then get your orange crayon, orange marker, and you could go ahead and make it orange, just like we have. So that's the good thing about these crafts is you can have most of these things at home already. Okay, look at that. We've got 2 hands to make his 2 feet. Okay, the last thing we have to trace and cut, and then we're almost done with that part, is going to be his scarf. It's chilly, so he needs a scarf to keep warm. So in your kit, if you picked one up, you would have one long, colorful piece of paper. They're all different colors and patterns, so yours probably won't look just like mine, but don't worry, any of them will be super duper cute. If you're making this at home and you didn't have a piece of paper, you could use some wrapping paper that you might have at home from Christmas. So you could use wrapping paper to cut that out. Okay, so once again, we're gonna cut out the pattern for the scarf. And if you wanna make a different shape of a scarf, that's okay too. This is just how I made it. When I saw it, I thought, ooh, this is the shape I'm gonna do. So that's the pattern you have, but you don't have to do that. Okay, I'm gonna cut that out. And that will be what I'm gonna trace onto the long colored piece of paper that I gave you. Okay. Lay it on there. Hold it down with one hand and trace with the other. Or if you need help, you could use the partner and one of you can hold it in place while the other one traces it. There we go. So I traced it out. I don't know if you can see my pencil on there. Now I'm going to, guess what? Say it with me, cut it out. Okay, here we go. I like this bright polka dot paper. It will look like a very nice, warm, and cozy scarf. Okay. I'm doing this a little too fast for you. Don't worry, you can just pause it. And then you can, when you're ready, you can turn it back on and catch up with me. So here is his polka dotted scarf. So now we have all the pieces that we need to make our penguin. Okay, so why don't you do this with me? Now we're gonna put them together. You're going to take your big black piece of paper that you cut out, that's his body, and lay that down in front of you. Then you're going to take the white piece of paper that we cut out, that was his tummy, and that's gonna be glued right on top. So here's where we need the glue. So you might have a glue stick, you might have a bottle of glue, all these will work. You might even, if your parent is doing this, might have a hot glue gun. Not necessary, but some of you might have that and that would work too. So we're just gonna put some glue onto the back of his tummy. I think my glue stick is a little bit old and glumpy, but that's okay. Oof. Looks like taffy. And then I'm going to stick it right onto the body. So this is what yours will look like. It looks like a penguin already. Now we're going to do the 2 wings that we cut out, his flippers. And remember, you have a right flipper and a left flipper. We're got them upside down. There we go. So they're going to be glued onto the side here, just like this. So you can put a little bit of glue. I'm going to use my liquid glue this time. A little bit of glue, this will come out. There we go. I put a little bit of glue down the side. And then I'm going to glue it right down here so that his little flipper is pointing out of the side, just like that. Here's my other flipper. Right, so we're going to put him a little bit of glue along the side like we did on the first one. You don't need too much. The more glue you put, the longer it takes to dry. And I'll glue that on. Let me show you what we got. Our penguin, his tummy, and his two flippers. Perfect. Now let's do, how about we do his feet? So his feet we cut out of the orange. And remember, his feet were actually your handprints. So now we're going to put those on the bottom, like that. Okay? So they'll kind of rest at the bottom of the penguin. So what I need to do is put a little dab of glue on them. And I will put his feet down here. 1 foot, another dab of glue on his other foot, and 2 feet. There he's got his 2 feet that are your handprints. Ooh, he looks very, very cute. Okay, the next part we're gonna do, we're gonna put on the scarf that you cut out. That way, when we put his beak on, it goes on top of the scarf. Unless your penguin's really cold and he wants his nose covered up with a scarf, you could do that. I put the scarf on first, so I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on here. And I will put his scarf. And if you notice, it kind of goes a little bit over the top of his tummy. And it fits straight across like that. So there's his scarf. Perfect. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put on his little nose that we cut out. That was the orange triangle shape. So if you didn't have that, you could have cut it out in white and then you color it and he would be perfect. So let's put his nose on there. I put a little glue on the back and then we're gonna stick his nose like that. So we're almost done. What are we missing? His eyes, 2 eyes. If you got a kit, you got the googly eyes. If you didn't, this is where you would just take your white paper, the leftover white paper that you have, and you would cut out 2 round white circles, and then you would put color in the black dots. But I do have my googly eyes, so I'm gonna put a little dab of glue on it. There's 1. And there is 2. Remember, the more glue, the longer it takes to dry. So just do a little bit of glue. And here we are. Here is our penguin. Waddle, 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 waddle. I have penguin friends. I don't know. What should we name him? I think it should be something with a P. I don't know. How about Peter the Penguin? Peter the Penguin. I like that. You can name your penguin too. Then look, you could hang this on the refrigerator and you could give this to somebody because it's got your handprints on it and it is it's super cute. Thanks again for joining us on our Crafternoon with the St. Johns County Public Library. And again, all the supplies that we put together and sent out to you were courtesy of our friends of the library who were kind enough to give us the money to buy these supplies so that you could do this craft along with us. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next Crafternoon. Have a super day. Bye guys.